Hello, hello. Welcome to the Aging Fiercely podcast. I am your host, A.M. Costanzo, and I have a question for you today. Did you know that we make over 35,000 decisions a day? 35,000 decisions in a day. I just had to repeat that so you can let that sink in. And here's the even crazier part. The vast majority of these decisions are completely unconscious, which means, yes, we are running our lives on autopilot. This is not new news. We've known this. We've known that most of our decisions are being made by our own personal AI that we set up years and years ago and then forgot about. We are being run by old programs that dictate our reactions to life because let's be honest, we're doing way more reacting than updating the old software. So think of it like this, the way you snap at your teenager, or the way you say yes when your whole body is tensing up and screaming, no, don't do this, this is a bad idea, and you do it anyway. Or the way you keep ending up in the same fight, the same job stress. It's the same loop. That's autopilot, and it's running the show. But fear not. No more fear, please. There is a way to upgrade the program, the software, your internal AI. My guest today is a former chief people officer and Fortune 10 exec who spent years doing, quote unquote, all the right things, climbing the corporate ladder, securing the fiance, making that money, and then one day things started unraveling. That perfectly laid out, perfectly executed plan for her future didn't satisfy her the way she thought it would. So she did what any good corporate leader would do. She ran a post-mortem on her own life. And what Lauren Most, my guest today, figured out in the wreckage is the thing that nobody teaches you. Not in the leadership program, not in the marriage advice columns, not anywhere. She built a method that you can run in a single breath, in any moment, anywhere, and we're walking through it today. So the best part of this is this works just as well in the boardroom as it does on any surly teenager. I've tried it myself. I can assure you, this works. So without further ado, here is my interview with Lauren Most. Welcome, Lauren Most, to the Aging Fiercely podcast. I am very excited that you're here. Just a little brief information on you. You have spent more than 15 years in senior leadership. So you've been the chief people officer and a Fortune 10 exec, and now you work privately with senior leaders. So that's what we're going to dive into, that transition and your story. So why don't we start with how you got here? Is that too broad of a question?
It's not. I mean, you may need to rein me in because who knows? I could give you literally journals worth of content here, but you know, how did I get here? I early in my career, um, I kind of looked at my career as something that I was going to focus on until I had a reason to slow down. So I actually remember being like 22 years old. I was in a leadership development program with GE. They were moving me around every 6 months. I had intensive coursework to help develop me as a leader in addition to my day job. And I was literally, I mean, uprooted and moved to Michigan. I moved to Germany, like kind of wherever the company is
Ooh.
sending me. And I remember just thinking, hey, I'm just going to keep doing this until I have a reason to slow down. And in my head, the reason to slow down meant having a family and a husband, some reason that I would slow down from kind of
Right.
being on this fast path on the corporate highway, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And something really interesting happened along the way. I learned how to be successful. I learned how to climb the corporate ladder. I made it, at the age of 33 to my dream job, which had been chief people officer. And I had always thought like, okay, once I get to the next level, once I get to that top job, like I'll be
Mm-hmm.
happy.
Right.
And I wasn't. And so I kept
Like,
being like, oh, what have I done wrong? Like I've worked so hard for this. And really just trying to understand that. And then I actually had this interesting intersection come almost at the same time where I realized I was in this job that I wasn't so happy in. And I had met a life partner who I was intending to get married to.
Mm-hmm.
And around the same time, I realized I wasn't happy in the job. And I actually ended up taking a 40% pay cut, thinking the problem was outside of me. Like, oh, maybe
Mm,
I climbed too quickly, or just maybe I'm not cut out for this. So I took a 40% pay cut to go to a larger company with more structure. And and my thought at that point, going back to that seed, as I said when I was like 22, I'm gonna keep climbing until I have a
right.
reason to slow down. So I was planning a wedding, intending to start a family, and a month and a half after I made that change, my engagement broke.
Ah,
Right.
uh,
And so
bottom drops out.
bottom drops out. Like the
Mhm.
perfect plan
Mm,
didn't
mm-hmm.
work. I
Yep.
had executed it
Right.
perfectly.
You're like, I did everything. I checked everything.
I did everything. I had my risk mitigation plan. I executed. I followed what I was supposed to do.
You're
Like
like, on the outside, it's all supposed to add up. What went wrong?
totally. Like what in the strategy didn't work here? I'm so
Yeah.
confused. And so I did what any good corporate leader would do. I did a post-mortem on myself and
Mm,
really took a step back and needed to understand what didn't work here.
yeah.
And so as I really began that journey of understanding how did I get here to a place where I'm not super fulfilled in
Yeah.
my career, where I'm devastated in my personal
Right.
life.
So
How
these
do
are just questions that you're asking yourself, right? That's your
exactly?
post-mortem is let me go internally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me go and I'm kind of watching, right? Like all of these big things in my life that I wanted that are crumbling
Right.
in front of me. And I'm asking myself, what's the common denominator here?
Right.
And the common denominator was me. And so in that journey, it was okay, if something's not working, let me figure out what's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get to the root cause of that. And then let me figure out how to make it work the way I want it to.
Yeah.
Kind of like very basic, like the way we look at systems in general, or the way we look at life or any project.
Right.
I figured, okay, how do I apply those principles to myself and my life?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the key turning point though is when you actually turned it around and you're like, let me look here, let me look inside. Because I don't think that's what a lot of people do.
No,
Because that's a little scary.
it's super
To
scary.
think like I did this. Yeah.
Yeah, we're also not taught how to do that,
Mm-hmm.
right? That like the things I know now versus the
Yeah.
things I knew then. I'm like, oh, that would have been helpful. Wish I knew
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, I know. Like, why did everything have to go sideways for me to be like, wait a minute?
Exactly.
Is the
Exactly.
answer not outside me? It's actually inside me? Like, what a concept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was in that journey, I really started understanding the way I related to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the turning point for me that, right, there's a lot of things in life we don't have control over.
Yeah.
What we do fully have control over are our own thoughts and our own feelings, which are all rooted back to these underlying beliefs that literally make up how we respond in life to
Mm-hmm.
anything that we encounter. So while we can't control everything we encounter, what we can actually control is unearthing and understanding what those beliefs are because they are the cause
Mm-hmm.
of the effect being our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings, and as a result, our actions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of just learned, oh, I got to really understand the psychology here. How do I unearth and understand my beliefs? And how do I reverse engineer to create the results in my life that I want? And so in that journey, I started going really deep within myself
Mm-hmm.
and unearthing what were those beliefs. And they were scary. I would say the scariest was I was feeling the need to prove my worth. And so I was over course correcting and
Yeah.
over indexing to everything outside of me to give me that authority and that sense of stability instead of cultivating that within my.
Yeah, that's a big one too. And I think it's very common, but not so easy to put a name on it. You were trying to prove yourself because you were feeling a sense of unworthiness, which just, I feel so many people feel that same exact way. They just don't know how to word it.
Yeah. It's not even they don't know how to word it. I think a lot of them don't even know how to feel that.
Because, yeah, you're just like, you feel something, but you're like, okay, it has to be outside of me. It has to be
Yeah,
something else that I can do. What can I do to fix this? And it's not that anything is broken or you have to fix anything. It's you need to shift the perspective.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I think what you just said is everything. Shift the perspective because again, there's so much we try and control. It's just our psychology, our physiology, it's the way we
Hmm.
as humans biologically relate to the world,
Yeah.
right? It's our brain protecting us
Yeah,
at the end of the
definitely.
day. And as we can move past that, understand that, and begin to integrate that into
Mm.
how we relate to things, it can open up a completely different experience.
Yes. Yes.
And that's where I found for myself the true power to be. And then as I work with clients, that's where I see the magic happen. It's that
Right.
perspective shift, learning how to see things a little bit differently, tools to help you see differently. Because again, we
Hmm.
aren't taught this. We're taught to
No.
suppress things. We're taught that the answer is in action and doing, as we're
Hmm.
talking about that the answer is in a strategy. We're not taught that, hey, the answer actually begins with us.
Yeah. So how did you work through that?
Oh man, that's a so many different ways. A lot
Yeah.
of reflection,
Yeah.
journaling, coaching, mindset work, embodiment work, somatic work,
Hmm.
therapy, a lot of different modalities to really try and get, I would say that 360-degree lens on
Hmm.
myself from the inside out. And I'm very much a systems thinker. So I look at everything like, okay, how do I really understand the root cause? How is this showing up everywhere? So, what am I seeing around me in terms of results?
Hmm.
What are some of the different inputs? What are the outputs?
Ah,
And then looking at myself as kind of the machine,
right.
and thinking, okay, like if I'm the machine, these are the inputs, these are the outputs. If I want to change the outputs, what can I control in terms of the inputs? What can't I control in terms of the inputs? And then within the system itself, the system being me, what
Mm.
can I and can't I control? And then really started working on the pieces I can control.
Did you find that one particular modality worked better than another for you?
I think it was a combination of everything and then processing and integrating within myself, in terms of perspective shifting.
Hmm.
And then testing. And I find myself still testing and
Yeah.
coming up with new tools, new structures, new patterns, new ways of seeing that continue to help me. I am working on a methodology right now that helps my clients and individuals to really pause and not jump into reactive state as
Hmm.
they're experiencing the world, and helps just create a little bit of space
Hmm.
between when the brain is going into fight or flight, even on
Hmm.
the little things, because it happens so quickly. Like we're making over 35,000 decisions a day, I think the latest
Is
data
like
says. And
crazy.
the vast, vast majority of them are completely unconscious or subconscious,
Hmm.
which means we're actively just doing things.
Right.
um,
Always.
Always.
Yeah.
And so, how do we actually slow down the process to give ourselves the space and capacity to take the action that's most aligned with how we want to show up, how we want to see results, how we want to relate to the world and others and ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah. A big piece of that too is which I'm learning about is the integration phase.
Yeah.
It's so important. And I feel like me personally, I have definitely glazed over that, right? So to me, that kind of means it's that moment when you're really hitting that fight or flight. and you're really uncomfortable, but you're like, I've been doing so well and I know what I have to do. But there just sometimes comes that point where your body's just like, okay, we've done this long enough. Let's go back. Let's go back to the way we were because this is getting to be a little too long. We're really doing it. It's really freaking me out. And I think that's like a very important time to pause, to not make any decisions,
Yeah,
and to slowly integrate all the tools and the practices that you've been learning and bring them back in and ride this little wave of resistance. So, yeah, integration I think is really a big key in having that space.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
think it's so critical because it's otherwise, right? We're just making decisions completely reactively
Yes.
without realizing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so without the integration, without that slowing down, we, again, psychologically, physiologically, don't actually have
Mm-hmm.
the space to even create the awareness of what
Mm-hmm.
we're doing. And that's how, right, when we see people fight who love each other, if we just
Mm-hmm.
take this to the most basic example, people who are yelling at each other that actually love each other, they're activated. They don't feel safe
Yeah.
for some reason within their unique psychology.
Yeah.
And so the way they respond, because what they've seen or been role modeled or society has taught them is to yell, raise
Yeah.
your voice, be
Right.
louder, be more assertive.
Yeah.
That's
Convince
not
them.
act right. That's not actually the
No.
way productive conversations happen.
No.
That's not how harmony happens. That's not how creativity is sparked. That puts the
No.
other person on the defense.
Yeah.
And it's actually counterproductive, but that's the way most of us operate in the world.
Yeah. It's surprising how, and it's so quick. Like all
It's
of a
so
sudden you can get triggered in a millisecond.
exactly
And like once you go, if you're not aware, it's really hard to pull back out because then
yes,
your ego is just like, oh no, we're in this. We're in this fight.
totally. Totally.
Yeah. So how have you taken all of this personal experience and now you're using it for high achievers, people in leadership, C-suite executives? So how does that translate?
A lot of it is helping create awareness. I think that's fundamentally the first step. But if I even
Hmm.
take a step back, I realized my passion as I was really looking more broadly at where does my passion lie?
Yeah.
Um, and my passion's always been in personal development, leadership development. I started my career in corporate finance and moved to human resources because I've always been fascinated by systems and structures and how they operate, which is through people, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
we have technology. Obviously, we have actual computers and systems and processors. But the reality is, humans, people, individuals are driving systems to work a certain way, are
Hmm.
driving corporations, environments to work a certain way. And so that's what always fascinated me and what drew me to the field of human resources, the people function to begin with,
Yeah.
was that fascination with both like the system overarching side, how a business makes money overarching, coupled with that human variable. And where I've focused my practice is helping leaders who are super stressed. Over 50% of executives these days report extreme stress or burnout.
Yeah. Totally.
Um, I see leaders who don't feel prepared for the uncertainty in the environment. So, I think something from Deloitte about a year ago said under 30% of organizations feel that their leaders are prepared for the disruption in the current environment in this
Uh,
age of complexity, AI,
right.
hybrid intelligence.
Yeah.
And so I work with leaders at the individual level to help them not lead from this place of fear, which they've been taught, right? Let's be clear, for decades, that's how our organizations, our systems have been designed to be in a place of command and control and to remove variability and to solve for any differentiation or unknown variables. And in that type of operating environment, when you're focusing on globalization, optimization, scaling in a more known context, that works.
Right.
You can do that for so long. Um, but the response to that, and this really stems from like the Industrial Revolution, has been this history of creating extreme control and over systemizing and
Mm,
creating additional layers of hierarchy and bureaucracy in order for the system to be able to operate.
right.
Well, the environment we're in today is not the same environment. We're in this extreme ambiguity. There's changes constantly. Nobody knows the right
Yeah.
answer.
Right.
Nobody has the right strategy. The playbooks are being written right now,
Yeah.
and things are changing constantly. Like the only constant is extreme change and complexity and uncertainty. And so I help leaders really shift from what they've been trained in, which is operating and leading through this command and control model, to helping them bridge the gap to how can they be their most creative self? How can they move from this place of fear to really feeling freedom to experiment, to explore, to take
Mm,
risks? Because those are the capabilities that are required of leaders to be able to navigate the complexity we're in right now. That's what employees need to
yeah.
see in their leaders, that they can trust them, that leaders are able to share and to be vulnerable and say, we don't have all the answers right now. And this is how we're moving to the muscle of
Right.
experimenting and learning and responding, because that's the environment we're in right now. Nobody can just say, here's the playbook, take it, execute. I do think we are in a moment of transition. I think it's going to continue taking time. It already has been. Like our systems are pretty broken if this is how our top leaders are feeling. And
Yeah.
I see more and more. We've seen thousands of women exiting the workforce. We've just seen such an uptick in what people
Hmm.
are willing to sacrifice and handle. And I think it comes down to two things. There's the system itself, and the systems are evolving, but not as quickly as we need them to. And then there's how do we relate to the system, which is back to that perspective shift we talked about.
Hmm.
And so I find some people, like I said, thousands of women are exiting the workforce, but not everybody has that choice or desire.
Right.
And so there's another way. If you're not going to leave the system you're in, you can choose to work on how you're relating to the system, how
Hmm.
you're establishing different boundaries, how you're taking in and absorbing and metabolizing information differently than the way you necessarily grew up doing it or were taught to do it or learned to do it in the
Right.
system. There's actually more power and more options than we think. And so I really work with leaders who fall in the camp of, oh, yeah, let me shift how I'm relating to the environment and then even understand, what do I have the power to change in my seat? At the leadership level, there may be a level of influence you can have on the system
Yeah.
depending on your role.
Right. Right. So you will come in and you work one-on-one with someone in a leadership position,
That's right.
and then you help them metabolizing information. And I'm just curious, like how do you work with someone to help them? Is that more of like a somatic feeling, like how do you handle the stress, or what does that look like? What is metabolizing?
Yeah.
How do you break that down?
So it's different by every person.
Yeah.
I actually do find for leaders, somatic work, which for anyone who's not aware is really tapping into the body and
Hmm.
using information that the body may be revealing to be incredibly helpful. And just a practical example of that for anyone who's not aware could be deep breathing,
Right.
or
Simple as
box
that.
breathing, or firmly grounding your feet on the floor,
Hmm.
or getting up and taking a stretch, slowing down and creating space. Because
Mm.
when we're in a super tense state, we don't have access to the full
Right.
realm of our mind. We're like, I think of it as tunnel vision. When we're
Hmm.
stressed, we're in complete tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of leaders who are going around in a constant state of extreme tunnel vision. And so when I say metabolize differently, it depends on the person. Some people it's more cognitive and talking through different things and developing a strategy that helps them see something differently.
Mm.
Some people it's more somatic, so breathing or a vision type exercise.
Hmm.
Others, there's a tool I love, which is uses storytelling, and it actually taps in to different parts of the subconscious and really allows somebody to have broader access to their full spectrum of their mind, of their body, and just see differently and really get out of that tunnel vision, going from maybe being able to use like, I'll say 5% of their mind to like 80% of it,
Right.
which is a huge shift. And I've seen that happen within 15 minutes for people, which
Hmm.
is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So taking a step more broadly, and happy to talk about any of the kind of like mechanics, but I am a huge believer in helping people tap into their subconscious, which again is like the vast, 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 vast majority. We don't even have the exact numbers, but I would say like 95 to 99% of how decisions and actions are happening on a day-to-day basis, and helping people really take a moment to gain clarity there so that they have broader access to how they're making decisions and their
Yeah.
judgment. Because
Hmm.
at the end of the day, leaders are being paid for having strong judgment.
Right. And that's more of like, yeah, you want to get below the neck.
Yeah,
Help them access everything below the neck as to opposed to always relying on logic and the way things used to be done. A lot of people just hold on to old thought patterns just because it's a sense of safety and
exactly.
they're not getting into more of the internal workings, the subconscious, which you're right, makes the majority of their decisions before they even know it. It's like the decision's already made.
Yeah.
And yeah, helping them tap into that, and then they can make better decisions and hopefully feel better and release a lot of the stress, right? Like you're actually seeing them in real time. Whew, release.
Yeah. And
That's
that's where it's so multifaceted because it's true. It's both a physical sensation
mhm.
and then there's the cognitive piece where it's just like, oh, you're actually better at producing results and outcomes. And so it is really that trifecta, um,
Mhm.
across all of those domains, which is where as I started learning this for myself, I was like, wait, I've been developed in some of the best companies. Where was this in my leadership development training?
Mm.
Like, this was a big gap. And so
Yeah.
that's the mission that I'm on, is to, hey, there's a lot of this knowledge that exists maybe in other formats. Right. I think a
Hmm.
lot of the overarching concepts like are very big in the yoga world. If go
Oh
into a
yeah.
yoga studio, I think people would be like, oh yeah, everything you're saying makes like complete sense. Or
Yeah.
maybe we talk in different language, but the concepts are very similar.
Yep.
And I'm like, where was all this? This was missing.
Right.
This
So
is a gap.
helpful. It's so helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, because like you said, like having that tunnel vision when you're stressed, you are zeroed in on something. And I've seen it many times in my years in corporate. It's like trying to solve the problem from that energy, from that narrow tunnel vision. It's impossible.
Yeah,
You really have to step back, release, because then once you open up, that's where creativity can start flowing in. And it is like an energetic thing. Like the more narrow you are, the more narrow your options. The more expansive you are, you get to see the whole field. And it changes everything. And
it's like, do you want to see in black and white, or do you want the Crayola box of at least 64 crayons available?
exactly, exactly. And it's like it's available to every single person.
Exactly.
No matter what you're doing, no matter your job, no matter your position, this is available to everybody. So
Yeah.
it's nice to know that like you're helping bring that in to, the C-level suites and, more the executive positions. Um, but there's also this thing that you say that effort doesn't scale,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think that's a big one.
It is. It's so big.
It's so
So,
big.
I think so. A, in general, when we talk about systems, corporate particularly, but really many systems, it's about how do we work harder? How do we work
Yeah.
harder? How do we do
How do we
more?
get more?
How
Produce
do we
more?
extract more from each person? Oh, okay, we're going to get rid of people, but the work remains. And yes, the mantra is always going to be, okay, we just need to do like less is more. But what does less is more mean?
Hmm.
And how do you help people understand like what is less is more? How do we work smarter, not harder?
Right.
Right. So we have these like great phrases, but we don't ever help people move along that journey.
Hmm.
So when I say effort doesn't scale, particularly, I'm talking to high achievers, and high achievers have usually become successful by putting in a lot of extra effort. And
Hmm.
especially earlier in their careers, that's what's made them excel. That's what's made them stand out because they've been willing to go the extra mile. They've taken on stretch assignments, they've taken on stretch opportunities, projects, been visible. And that is how they've gotten to many of the seats that they've gotten in.
Hmm.
Um, so, what does that mean? That means they've literally grown up in a system that has rewarded them
Yeah.
for putting in extra effort. And as they continue to grow in their careers, obviously, from a psychology perspective, any behavior that's been positively reinforced is what becomes ingrained in the brain. And this is how I operate. So, what you naturally have over time are high achievers, leaders who have gotten to the seat that they're in by doing a lot of work and putting in a lot
Hmm.
of extra effort and
Right.
making a lot of sacrifices in order to be in the seat they're in. Now, I'm certainly not saying that there aren't sacrifices in certain positions that need to be made, right? I think that's just a
Right.
given. However, um, effort doesn't scale really comes from that stops working at a certain level, right? So, like, just churning out a lot or working harder, once you get to a more senior level, really, again, the only thing that matters is like, what is your judgment, especially in the environment that we're in right now? It's how are you able to interpret incomplete data? How are you able to navigate ambiguity? Well, just getting a ton of extra data and doing a ton of additional research is not the answer for how
Hmm.
you make better decisions. You make better decisions, you have better judgment by creating space to integrate back to the, conversation we were having earlier.
Hmm.
How do
Yeah.
you integrate everything you're hearing around you?
Yeah.
How do you make sense? How do you pick up the signal of the organization, the environment, your stakeholders, your customers, your competitors? You can't do that if you're just constantly in firefighting mode, which
Hmm.
is how we have a lot of leaders that, again, are just kind of forced into that mode by sheer function of their roles and the way the system has brought them up.
Right.
So, what you have is this disconnect. You have leaders needing to make really important, big strategic decisions. And you have these leaders at the same time have, let's say, if we think of them as like a computer, it's like they have 200 open tabs on
Right.
their computer.
Yeah.
A computer can't run with 200 open
No.
tabs, right? It's going to run best with like 3 tabs open. And so when I say effort doesn't scale, it's you can't scale your own capabilities. You can't access the best parts of you if you are just in go, 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 go.
Right.
Action, action, action. Let me put in more effort. Let me stay closer to this. Let me micromanage this. Let me put in another dashboard.
Right.
Let me measure more key performance indicators. Sure, that creates action, but that doesn't drive the business. That just creates busyness. And there's a
Yes.
huge difference
Huge.
between driving the business and creating busyness in the business.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the number one way to burn out.
Totally.
That's why so many people just like a fuse has to like pop at some point because you're just like, you can't keep just going into overdrive. And that's like overfunctioning and that's overperforming and that's always overwhelmed. And that's why a lot of people just, whoo, they burn out, they're done, they're out.
Yeah.
They need to take a step back, but you can't just keep grinding.
I would say our systems have kind of created a leadership development environment of how do we produce for better or less like leadership robots. And that doesn't work anymore. That
No.
worked for a period in time, and that
Yeah.
doesn't work for the moment that we're in right now, and it doesn't work for the foreseeable future.
This also goes into a framework that you're building, freedom over fear.
Yes. So I'm working overarching actually on a book right now. And the book is called From Least to Most. And there's multiple meanings to it.
Hmm.
But really the journey for a leader on shifting out of a fear-based model of leading and operating to maximizing their abilities, their effectiveness, cultivating the best in themselves and thus the organization and the people that they lead overarching.
Hmm.
So that's sort of the journey of least to most, of transforming fear into more freedom and fulfillment,
Hmm.
and ultimately results. So there's a number of pieces that go into that, but I would say the tool that I have found to be the most accessible, or, the overarching way that I've shifted how I relate to individual moments, because at the end of the day, how we lead, how we show up comes down to how are we showing up in each individual moment, each individual situation.
Right.
So I've worked through and created a tool called the MOST method, which really helps an individual, a leader. I mean, this is accessible for anyone,
Yeah.
but it's particularly developed for senior leaders who constantly don't have time and are needing to shift, shift, shift. And the MOST method is really a tool that helps them create space in a microsecond, to be able to access let's say the 64 Crayola crayons versus the black
Hmm.
and white.
Right.
And so that it really creates a pattern interrupt in
Oh,
awareness
nice.
is what the tool does. And so the most method has 4 steps, and they spell most. So the first is a micropause. The second is observing. The third is seeing a pattern. And the fourth is taking intentional action.
Mm.
So the first, the M, the micropause, is we're just trying to interrupt autopilot. 'Cause as we've now talked through, right? Autopilot's just gonna kick in, drive
Hmm.
like almost all of our decisions, and we
Yeah.
actually have far less ability to make decisions if we're allowing autopilot to kind of run us.
Hmm.
So this can be done instantly. It's literally just 1 second, one breath, not reacting, taking a moment. The second step, O, is observing. And that's treating a moment not as a problem, but as information. So our brain, our amygdala is constantly scanning the environment for threats. We become hypervigilant. We're always on edge trying to
Hmm.
detect these threats. And so what this O step is doing is saying, I'm just going to observe right now and reframe this in my head as not being a problem, but information. That creates the space to actually understand what might be triggering me.
Right.
What might I be noticing right now? The next step is the S step is seeing whatever the pattern might be. What information might this moment be showing me? How might this connect to anything else?
Right. You're saying like the pattern being like how your brain would normally can take the information and process it. Are you saying like, okay, this is what I see. Normally I would think this. How else can I see this?
Exactly.
Okay. I like that.
Exactly. So it's really expanding the aperture is
Yeah.
the intention.
Hmm.
So seeing, is there a broader pattern here? Is there something that I can spot or recognize within myself?
Hmm.
What would another version of me have done? How might I have responded to this situation 2 weeks ago, but it didn't turn out well for me because I yelled at someone and then had to apologize?
Right.
So how do we just widen the aperture for just like a moment? All we're trying to do is like interrupt the autopilot of the brain and give it a few key conditions to go down so
Hmm.
that we're able to then the final step, take intentional action. And the question there is really asking yourself, what would the most version of me do here? Not the least, what would the most version?
I like
If I'm not operating from fear, if I'm operating from this freer space,
mm-hmm.
a version that's higher of me, the
Mm,
person that when I envision myself as a leader, inspiring people, leading others, making great decisions,
mm-hmm.
showing up the way I want to show up, what
Right.
would that most version of me do in this action, do in this moment? And that's what you do.
Huh. I love that.
So
The
it's
most
really this,
version.
yeah, it's this like micro practice that can be done in any moment. I did it this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Before we started, I was just telling you how,
Mm-hmm.
I had um, some travel issues and
Right.
it was really frustrating. And I spent over 40 minutes trying to get in touch and get something resolved.
Yep.
And as I was telling my husband, and filling him in, he's like, I don't understand how you didn't flip out. Like, this is so frustrating. I'm like, right, it is so frustrating. But I was running the most method in my head
Right.
constantly.
I
Like,
love it.
okay, yep, I'm not going to flip out because what is that going to do for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
Yeah, and right in the so to make that like to make this super sticky, would it be helpful if I went through how I ran this on myself this morning?
Yeah, 100%.
So literally I mean, just to set the context, I
Mm-hmm.
received an email yesterday that my flight has been changed by a day. And then when I try and get in contact via customer service, I tried calling 4 times, and each time was after, going through all the hoops of
Oh,
like which button.
goodness.
I finally got,
Like,
okay, transferring you to an agent, and it just hung up on me.
ah.
So now I've tried calling someone and I'm like, okay, I've tried 4 times. Like
Oh
that system
gosh.
is broken.
Yep.
So then I try going through the chat feature. When I get on the chat feature, first it's just like a chat bot. And then I don't know if I was talking to a human or like a second level chat bot,
Right.
unclear. But that second level chat bot slash person was telling me, oh, sorry, there's no seats on the flight you've been reassigned to. So instead of
Ooh.
you drop, so May 14th is the flight I booked. May 13th is like what you've been reassigned. We don't have any seats then either. So how's May 12th or 16th? We already have our whole itinerary booked. And
Oh
like,
my gosh.
right. So this is like just becoming
Yeah.
insanity. And of course, naturally, right? What would anyone do? You're like annoyed. You want to yell at this person. You start
Mm-hmm.
wondering if you're even going to make it on this trip. Yeah.
Right.
All those thoughts ran through my
Everything
head
just starts
too.
going.
Yeah.
Like rapid fire.
Rapid fire, right? Like you're in defense mode because you're
Yep.
frustrated and your brain is trying to control something that it doesn't have control over.
Mm-hmm.
So I must have done this 10 times during this like 40-minute process. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stop for a minute. I'm just going to stop like a second. I'm not going to let all of these crazy thoughts that are filtering through so quickly take
Mm-hmm.
over. What information am I even getting right now? What am I feeling triggered on? Right. So I start noticing, like, oh, I'm triggered. This trip might not work out. I'm going to need to spend a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
Right. These are the
Right.
things I'm actually like observing. And then I thought about like the pattern and how can I connect this to other things? Well, other times this has happened. I've gotten super worked up, maybe like been super angry for a day,
Yeah.
tried to control things I couldn't control, wasted a
Mm-hmm.
lot of energy and effort on something that maybe I got the result I wanted, maybe I didn't. It's probably worked out both ways. But the broader pattern I was seeing is this is a system that has constraints. And how do I just get the information from this,
Right.
situation so
Mm-hmm.
that I can take the right action for me that's
Mm-hmm.
going to allow me to do what I need to do. So while frustrating, I decided as I weighed the trade-offs, me continuing to get this man to do something that he's telling me he can't do is
Right.
ineffective. Let
Mm-hmm.
me understand all the variables and constraints from him. And then what I decided to do is, even though it was super annoying, I saw something he didn't see online, which was 2 seats not near each other on this, you know, switched flight. And I just paid more money even though I was duplicating something I'd already paid for, to book those 2 seats.
Hmm.
And because I'm like, if the system lets me do it, let me at least try. And then I will request a refund for the double payment after the fact.
Look at that.
And as frustrating as that was, and what I really wanted was a voucher from him or him to just do it on his end,
Right.
I realized that's not going to happen. So
Hmm.
me trying to control something I can't control is completely ineffective
Right.
and not getting me towards the result I want, which is just at this point a seat on this plane.
Right. Just get me on that plane.
Just get me on this. I know that's sort of like a silly example, but
No, actually, no, because that is an extremely common scenario that we've all found ourselves in, you know?
totally.
So it's like totally get that.
And a different version of me would have just demanded and like screamed and probably not gotten anywhere. I mean, I
Right.
tried asking to speak to a supervisor. I tried asking for a callback. Like I was told,
Right.
oh, no, no. Me, I can't control that.
Yeah. And the fact that you were like able to calm yourself down and just took another path and dealt with the situation, and now you're not like totally still just fuming from that experience. I think
It-
that's a total win.
yeah. I'm like,
So,
okay, I'm going to Spain and now I'll work in the back end, like getting the
right,
refund.
right. Figure that out next.
Figure
Exactly.
that out.
So, I mean, that works perfect, and that could be used by anybody at any point during your day whenever anything frustrating happens, even like being stuck in traffic. It's like down to like those simple scenarios that really piss people off, that really set people off, where you're just like, it's unexplainable. Things like that happen. You get triggered, and it's like you're done for the rest of the day. You know,
Yeah.
like that's like parenting. Like, my God, like the amount of times my kids have like pushed my buttons, you know, and it's like I'm learning now to be like, all right, I see this. I'm not going to react the way I used to. I'm going to figure out how to respond. And I love the whole idea of just being intentional at the end and
Yeah.
being like, I do have control. There is something I can do.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
and
that,
tr truly, I think the first and final step are the most important, like the bookends, which is first, right? You're just creating the space to even expand that aperture that
yeah.
we talked about. Not have, you're giving yourself the space to not stay in tunnel vision, which is
Hmm.
forced by the fight or flight.
Yep.
And then, right, bridging you to being able to take an intentional action where you're asking yourself, what would the most version of me do here? I don't want to be the least version of me. I want to be the
Yeah.
most version of me.
I like
And
that.
then those middle 2 steps are really giving you the space to observe as information and then just see the broader pattern that might be emerging.
Hmm. I love it. I think it's so great. So useful.
Yeah.
So great. Well, I have totally and thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I know we could like keep going and going and going, but I want people to know where they can find you and how they can work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So they can find me on Substack.
Hmm.
The Refocus Room is the name of my Substack there, and happy to send you over those details to
Hmm.
include in
Yep,
the
I'll
show
put them
notes.
in the show notes.
I'm also on LinkedIn, Lauren Most, and my website is mirrorpower.com.
I love it. Thank you so much, Lauren. I mean, it was just really good information, and I think that's a really good takeaway, that most method. And I love it because it's the last name, least to most.
Thank you.
It's very witty. I enjoy it. I love the creativity behind that.
Thank you, thank you.
And thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here. Thank you to all of your listeners and really just appreciate being able to have the opportunity to share.
And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Here are your takeaways. Number one, run a post-mortem on yourself this week. Pick one thing that keeps going sideways. The same fight with your partner, the same Sunday night dread, the same diet that doesn't stick. Write down what's the common denominator. If it's you, which it usually is, what belief do you think might be driving it? Number two, name the belief out loud. Most of us think I have to prove my worth. Catch it in the act this week. The over explaining, the yes you didn't mean, the self abandoning. When you spot it, say to yourself, am I trying to prove something? Does this actually line up with my goals? Number three, stop forcing one thing. Pick the area where you're working hardest with the least result. the workout you hate, the client you dread, the routine you're forcing, ask, what would smarter, not harder, look like here? Then do that instead, even just once. Number 4, interrupt one decision today. Not all 35,000 of them, please. Just one. The next time you feel the autopilot kick in, like reaching for your phone, snapping at your kid, saying yes too fast, pause for one breath. That's it. That's the whole rep. Number 5, run most on your next trigger. Micropause. Observe what's happening in your body. See the pattern. Have I been here before? Take intentional action. Try it on the next eye roll, the next rude email, the next time you catch yourself about to spiral. And there you have it. Lauren Most, leadership development coach, soon to be book author, and creator of the Most method. I hope you enjoyed that conversation and are walking away with a few tools you can use next time an uncomfortable situation arises. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I've got something for you. It's my top 10 list. The best ways to start moving. Think of it as your launch pad from not moving, because you don't know where to start, to moving so much that you start feeling amazing. Yes, it's possible, because I want you to start feeling good about yourself right now. So all you have to do is leave a review. I know I'm asking something of you, but if you want to grab this awesome top 10 list, just leave a review. It can even just be a heart emoji. I don't care, as long as you leave something so I know you're there. Take a snapshot of it and email it to me at am@amcostanzo.com, and bango, I'll send you this top 10 list of the best ways to start moving. All right, that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed the episode. I will catch you next time. Ciao.